Good morning. Welcome to the Long Live Alternative Parties podcast. Free Press Media Press Inc., an alternative parties books publisher, sponsors this podcast. I'm Andrew Bouchard. Welcome to the Long Live Alternative Parties podcast. Today, Alternative Parties friends, we have another exciting guest. His name is David Raudab, and he's running for office under the Libertarian Party. He's going to talk about his exciting campaign and all the exciting stuff he's been doing in his life. So welcome to the podcast, David.
Thank you. Glad to be here. Just to be clear, my last name is Raudab. You got it really close, though. So, hey, I'll give you points.
So, Raudab?
Raudab, yep, exactly.
Okay, we got it right now. So, David, let's get started by you kindly giving us an introduction to yourself, a brief biographical sketch.
Okay. I am a resident of Georgia, been there for 39 years. I'm a father of two beautiful, talented, successful young women, married to as I like to call her, my first wife for all that time, and hopefully that'll continue. So like I said, it depends how good I do on your podcast. You never know. But anyway, so I decided to run for this office, Ag Commissioner here in Georgia, and I have a lot of reasons to do it. I've crossed over a few different ideas. I wanted to start with, obviously, my campaign is Joint Decision for Georgia, and the website is jointdecisionforgeorgia.com, and the hashtag is Joint Decision GA. So I'm focused on the idea of cannabis is agriculture. So changing around the idea of saying that, it's an evil drug or something like that. It's really just another form of agriculture, and we really need to embrace it that way. And so number one question always comes up, that does include full adult use cannabis, but more importantly to all of us for our health, and more importantly to the state, it also includes full industrial hemp application, use, and deployment across the state for all the benefits that it can provide.
Sure. So kindly tell our audience, other than dealing with the specific issue of marijuana, what are the general responsibilities of an agriculture commissioner?
Well, as it turns out, it's a really important job most people don't know about. I really become the lead salesperson for the state of Georgia's agriculture, lock, stock, and barrel. So I want to make sure that the farmers do well. I want to make sure that the people of Georgia, the Georgians themselves, I want to make sure that they're provided a healthy food supply, nourishing them, trying to help out all aspects of the food delivery system, along with a few other systems that seem a little odd, but they're in there as well, like, gas stations, deployment of pumps and measurements in gas stations, and, a number of other things that are also in there. But overseeing all of the agricultural department, as well as Georgia's livestock and its production here in the state.
Okay. Did both the Republican and Democratic parties field candidates for this position?
I'm actually running. I'm running as a Libertarian, and there is a Democrat and a Republican in contention for this role, and all three of us are on the ballot November 8th here in Georgia.
Okay. So, if you don't mind sharing, what are your opponents like? Who are you facing?
Well, let me be real specific. Okay. I'd like to talk about the differences in my opponents and myself. I don't want any personal attacks on any of them. I'm sure they're great people. I've never spoken to either one of them personally, which is kind of surprising because I've been at a few debates they were supposed to be at. But nonetheless, so I haven't had the opportunity to meet them, so I'm not going to bash them or anything like that. But what is different about me and my plan? As I mentioned, the cannabis is one thing, and I'll go into in a minute why I chose that, even though it's not the main issue. The real difference is the idea of regenerative farming. We got away from what farming was meant to be. And like I said, I like to believe that everyone did it for a very noble cause. but we really got away from the idea of farming as community and providing the best food that you can provide for your community. And we really got into this idea of, where we should feed the world, a globalistic idea. And really, it's one of the three things that are really wrong with agriculture, and maybe I should have started there. But the idea when we all of a sudden say, because we can, we should at all costs. And that's really the main difference in my approach to agriculture. We don't have to rape the land and poison, the people and the animals around us to achieve, really great things in agriculture. As a matter of fact, if we look back just a little bit into, the ideas of permaculture and taking and becoming one and understanding the soil, not just say, well, I took it to a lab and it says add nitrogen, so I'm going to buy, a metric ton of nitrogen from a foreign country that, may or may not have our best interest in mind because of this globalistic sense of that's what I need to do to feed the world, right? So like I said, it's a noble cause, but what it really allows you to do is mistreat the land and mistreat animals too. And that's something that from a health standpoint, every voter should really consider. Industrial farming, and maybe let me take 1 second to go back. The three things that are wrong with farming today are industrialization, where we mechanize farming so much, harvesters or manipulating the land with heavy tractors and plows and those things. In other words, now today we could say we could move a mountain, and we do, and turn it into farmland. That doesn't mean that's the right thing to do, right? Displacing people on the farm with mechanism has certain economic benefits. It allows you to grow your farm substantially, but it's not necessarily the best thing for the land or the animals. So 3 things. Mechanization was first. Then the second became globalization, where we believed that just because we could provide food for everybody, we should. And now, like I said, that's the noblest of causes, right? You want to feed people everywhere.
Certainly.
But the reality of what happens is you end up driving down the quality of the product to meet a minimum global standard. So instead of saying, I want to feed my family and my community the best beef I possibly can raise, it now is, how can I produce 100 or 500 or 5,000 head of cattle to ship to some other country, right? So the second thing, and I'm going to make the third one quicker. So the first one was the mechanization. The second one, it made us believe that globalization was the right thing and that we should feed everywhere and everywhere and try to figure out a way to do that. And that creates all sorts of other issues about really not caring for the land in the best way we could. And then the third and final one was the idea of centralization. And this one's a little tougher to understand, but it's where we started shipping livestock across state lines and transporting it to other places, processing houses and things like that, because it became economically feasible to run 24-hour butchers and all these kind of things and process it in this really industrialized fashion. Right. Well, here's the concept of why that really is terrible for us as a community. What that does, if we load our livestock onto a truck at the end of their life, however quality it may have or may not have been during their growth cycle, right, depending on how the farm is set up. But then you for processing, drive it across who knows how far, maybe multiple states, and then you terminate these animals in a food factory way, right, which traumatizes the animals, that releases enzymes and proteins into the proteins that creates all sorts of issues for us, because right before or right after we traumatize the animals, we consume them. So that means that we're eating this stuff, and I get it, they're dead, right? But what we did to them right before they died was a last kind of shitty step in their life And transporting is one of the nastiest things we can do. Think about stacking animals 4 or 5, on top of each other. They're defecating as they go and, totally traumatized by the process. And then they sacrifice their lives for us to eat. I'm a meat eater. I got nothing against eating meat. I'm going to continue to eat meat. So don't think that's the angle I'm taking here. I'm really saying it should be done. It can be done. And there's successful farms today doing it, processing in a much more humane fashion. The same thing goes for agriculture. We have to pick products early to ship it. We have to spray it with extra chemicals to get it there safely. Those are all things that we should be taking into consideration in how we ask for and demand what we demand for our food processing, our food distribution, and in general, the agriculture that we consume. Right? We need to be a little bit healthier. It'll mean we'll have less need for pharma and all those other things in our lives if we have an improved diet. So I know that was probably a bit longer than you wanted an answer, but now you know where I stand and really the issues that are important to me. The cannabis thing is important to me as well. And I want to tell you why I made that such a main plank in the program. One is an old farmer here in Georgia, a very successful 8th generation farmer, one of the largest family-owned farms in Georgia, who was into regenerative farming and that. And he told me after a long meeting one day, he said, "Quit wasting your time with the farm." And I was kind of shocked by that, right? I said, "Well, you got to tell me, why you say that." And he goes, "Well, because there's still about 50,000 farmers, depending on how you count them in Georgia." He goes, "You need 1.9 million votes to win." He goes, "You better come up with something better than farmers to get yourself across the borderline and create something." So the cannabis part is really one. It's something that's close to my heart. I've been an advocate my whole life, but the reality is it's also a way to unite people across parties and across political concerns as well as, even personal issues, right? So even if you want or believe you have personal rights, which is a main stake of the libertarians, right? But it should be everybody. You have a right not to get your shit stolen or taken, and it doesn't matter if it's from a government or somebody else, but, you should have a right to be able to live your life in a way that's empowering to you, as long as you're not fucking with other people, right? I mean, that's the bottom line. If you're not stealing my shit or stealing other people's shit and you're doing okay, we're probably going to get along just fine, right? So that idea of personal rights is important for the cannabis thing, but it's really a uniter to get the people in Metro to say, wait a minute, 70 to 80% of those people are all about legalization. So you know what? With 70 or 80% of the people uniting under this cause, that's enough to win and change things, even for, someone as crazy as a libertarian in a third party, right? This potentially, this race here in Georgia, and why this is so important, this potentially is the very first time a libertarian candidate would win a state office. Very first, anywhere in the country.
Wow.
We're in it right here today. And you could be part of it by getting the word out to as many voters in Georgia as you can to say, look, this guy's not full of shit. I mean, certainly less full of shit than most politicians anyway. Not that I'm not partially full of shit. We all are a little bit, right? But the reality is I'm as normal could be. I have a family. I raised a family. I've had businesses. I participate in church. I do all of that stuff as well as, I like to smoke pot. And it hasn't caused me issues in any of those other parts of my life. So the reality is it is a unifier. It's a reason to get behind the campaign, like a joint decision for Georgia.com. That's my email. You can donate cash there, through regular funds. I mean, not cash. You can, use your credit card and stuff. It's all a politician legally set up to donate money so you can deduct it just like any other campaign. But we're really trying to do the right thing, trying to say, look, a different approach to agriculture means a healthier lifestyle for all of us. And this idea about having an extra bonus by saying, you know what, adult use cannabis is going to be part of it, along with really understanding industrial hemp, and I haven't even started on that path with you about what that means to the state, agriculture, economy, and ecosystem specifically. But those things are all part of a 100% win with the vote for Dave Raudab for Agriculture, Commissioner Georgia.
So you said the website was Joint Decisions what?
JointDecisionForGeorgia.com.
Okay.
And then my email is jointdecisionforgeorgia@gmail. And Dave Raudab is the name, and I bet you'll pronounce it right after that. But Dave Raudab, looking for your vote, looking to share the word. You know, it's really time. You know, and I don't want to get on my bandstand about fighting the two-party system, because that's a whole nother podcast that, you know, we should focus on that sometime. But I even know smarter libertarians that I'd recommend for that. But the reality is no one has got a better grip on how agriculture should be, what's wrong with it, and how to fix it, which is the most important part. I'm not just saying in the background saying, you know, throw the bastards out, which is a good chant most of the time, right? I'm saying my plan is better. I have a plan. I understand what's wrong. Let me help fix this, not before it's too late. It's not gloom and doom. But the reality is, why waste any time in fixing it, right?
Exactly. Time is of the essence.
Absolutely.
David, thank you. I'm sorry, go ahead. Were you going to say something, David?
I'm sorry, I talked over you. I didn't hear your question.
Oh, did you have something to add? It sounded like you're going to say something.
Well, hey, I'm a salesman that turned politician. I won't stop talking. You have to do me and gag me to get me to stop talking, because I really believe in what we're here doing. You know, I also know that I am the underdog by far. You know, I have the Democrat Party, the Republican Party. They're hugely funded. They can do anything they want. Basically, other than a few $100s that's come in from outside my family, this has been completely financed by me.
Okay.
Contention. So we got a bunch of stuff coming up, big political stuff, policy-wise, that'll be cleared and presented in comparison with the other candidates at a couple of events. The League of Women Voters, the public broadcasting is having a official debate next month. Well, actually the following month. So we have a bunch of stuff that we're going to call these people out on what they're doing wrong. Let them know that there is an option out. The people of Georgia know there's an option out there for someone who's young, energetic, you know, speaks well, is a proud Georgian, been a proud Georgian for a long time, and just wants to do right for for Georgians, not for lobbyists, not for any special interest groups, for Georgians. That makes me the loudest voice in the room, right? Because 10 million people are in Georgia, and the current political system is set up to serve hundreds, not millions. That's the difference. That's the game changer. You know, people in Georgia understand there's someone here that's going to do something for them that's you. I should win in a landslide. But hey, like I said, all that money that the other parties have is a big game changer. So we'll see how it plays out.
Yes. David, we thank you for coming on the podcast today and talking about your campaign. And we wish you all the best in your campaign and all your other personal and professional endeavors.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you for the time and listening. And again, have me back sometime. We'll pick some other real specific issues, like, you know, why I'm a third party instead of one of the two. I didn't pick the easier path. But anyway, that's for another time. Thank you, everybody. Please consider voting for me. Dave Raudab, JointDecisionForGeorgia.com.
All right. Take care and all the best.
Thank you.